Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So for those who don't know me, I'm Esther Mogyirosi, Climate Finance Manager at the ICLEI World Secretariat. And before we start, it is very important that you know that this webinar will be recorded and the link will be shared after the webinar together with all the documents I will present during this webinar. So also for some technical details, you are now all muted. And in case you have a question, please use the button raise the hand, and then I will, with my colleague Julia, unmute you. And I also invite you, meanwhile, to type your questions in the question box. But the structure of the webinar, I really would like to keep it as interactive as possible. And I prepared a few slides. I will have a really brief presentation to tell you about the new call, about the novelties, so some news. But after that, I'm really here today to hear your questions and for discussions. So the main reason for organizing this webinar is because we have the TAP call, the third one to be announced next week during the UNSG summit in New York. And I would like to tell you about this call and how we prepared for this call and what we would like to achieve together with you regional offices. So as we are not that many at this webinar, I would like to start with a round of introduction to know who is attending this webinar with us. So Adrienne, can you please introduce yourself briefly? Adrienne might have some speaking problems, but then I would like to ask you, Alfredo Bernarte, to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello, good evening. I'm Al Bernarte from the Southeast Asia Secretariat. I'm supporting project administration for SEAS and also doing some project acquisition from time to time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Gustavo Oliveira.
So I'm Gustavo Oliveira. Work here at ICLEI South America at climate change team. I work with projects in Colombia, helping the ICLEI Colombia, supporting ICLEI Colombia, along with Carolina Mesa.
Thank you so much. Pleasure having you here today. Rebecca, can you please introduce yourself?
I'm Rebecca Cameron from ICLEI Africa, and I'm here with my colleague, Awile Joanna.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Rohit, can you please introduce yourself in a few words?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Rohit, and I'm a bit confused which one to say as my introduction, but I'll be soon joining the ICLEI team. So I'm also part of ICLEI, so to say. At the moment, I'm working with Better West GmbH in Frankfurt as a business development manager.
Thank you, Rohit, and very much waiting for you joining us from 1st of October. And meanwhile, I see one more participant joining, Joel Chester Pagulayan. Can you please introduce yourself in a few words, Joel?
Yeah, hi, I'm Joel. You can call me Cheng. I'm from the ICLEI Southeast Asia Secretariat. Yeah, and I'm the Membership and Communications Officer.
Thank you so much. So starting the presentation, most of you already know the TAP, has been working with the TAP for a few years, but still as we have new faces here, just to start with a short introduction on the TAP, on its mission, or the eligibility criteria, and what is the whole transformative action program about. So the TAP was first launched in 2015 with the goal to demonstrate the need and the demand for local projects. And with the TAP, we would like to help local and regional governments to access finance and to scale up their local action, the local climate action. All this shall contribute to support low to no emission and climate resilient development. So the eligibility criteria, we have no criteria regarding the size of the project. Both large and small-scale projects are welcome. We have no criteria regarding the maturity of the project, so projects being in the project scoping definition phase as well as welcome as projects to be ready to implement it. We invite applications globally. So last year we received applications only from the Global South, but for example, in 2015, we had equally applications from the Global North and the Global South. So, and also at this time for this third call, we encourage mobilizing projects and applications from all over the world. So that would also show the diversity of this program. So learning from the experience since 2015, when that time we both accepted soft and hard infrastructure projects, and we still offer to you the definition of what a hard infrastructure project is. What we mean on that, if I want to keep it very simple, it's a project where you have some real investment measures. So to give you some example to understand, for example, in 2015, we had some projects where the project was about a communication campaign or just to write a plan, or organize an exhibition, organize a conference. So those type of projects we don't accept anymore, and it's not that because we don't see the importance of such projects. We do, but what we learned during the past years is when we try to pitch the projects and we talk to financial partners and investors, they are all interested in the hard infrastructure measures. So that's now what our focus is on, but this is the same as it was already last year. So it's only a difference between the original concept and where we are now today. So very importantly, what we also check, and we are very rigid on this, that the applicants, they have to be a local or a regional government, or it can be also their project partner, but only when it's proved that still the local or the regional government is the key stakeholder of this project. And very importantly, as it's already in the name, the transformative impact. So as said, we have no criteria on the financial maturity and technical maturity of the project, but regarding the transformative impact, the project has to be robust. So on the application form, and I will speak later about the application form, those who already worked with TAP applications know that we have very detailed questions checking the transformative impact. So transformative for us means that the project has to be ambitious, cross-cutting, and inclusive. Ambitious meaning, for example, that we check there that the project is aligned with regional goals, national goals, also international goals. Whenever it's a relevant question that it has a significant CO2 emission reduction, ambitious meaning also that the project is scalable, that it's replicable. And then cross-cutting, we mean mostly that the project has a holistic approach, a cross-sectoral approach, and then the inclusive, that the project also considered during the project design the vulnerable, the disabled, the gender, the local businesses, SMEs. But if you go to the application form, you see all these very detailed questions. And this transformative impact is what is our main criteria. So our scoring sheet, what already shared with you, but for the new ones, I'm happy to share those scoring questions again. But that scoring sheet is based also on those transformative questions. So that's if a project fulfills, then is eligible for the TAP, and meaning that once the project is in the pipeline, meaning the project was screened and scored higher than 70%, so got the TAP approval seal and is in the pipeline, then we at ICLEI commit ourselves to seek opportunities to match them with potential investors, technical partners, financial partners, project preparation facilities, depending on what the project needs to become a more robust and bankable project. So speaking about some novelties and some news, and here I am really very grateful for all the work and cooperation with the comms team at the ICLEI World Secretariat, because we were working hard in the past months on several documents to be ready for the next call, as set to be announced next week in New York. So the call will be open just as last year for a 2 months period, meaning until the 30th of November. But we have, as a novelty there, we have also new partners joining this time. And this is the GIZ through the Felicity program, and the GIZ through the COM-SSA 3, so the Covenant of Mayors Sub-Saharan Africa Component 3. Of course, our main goal would be to have GIZ as a TAP partner, but GIZ, if you know, I guess most of you work with GIZ, so it's such a complex and such a huge organization that it's difficult to get them as GIZ as a partner. Of course, we are working on it and hoping that maybe in long term we also get there, but at the moment we allowed them, but it's really an exception to join the TAP as an initiative, which is not something we would like to promote in the future. We really would like that organizations join to be TAP partners and not initiatives. But this time, as those cooperations are very important for us, we made this exception. So regarding all these documents we worked on, one is the TAP stocktaking document, and here I would like to thank all your input you provided on the draft, which was shared early this summer. So those who provided input, of course, already know this document. So this document is about giving an overview what happened since 2015, then very particularly what happened in 2018 and 19, and then on the next steps. Then we also prepared a TAP partner guide, which is for new partners introducing the TAP, also giving ideas what kind of benefits it could bring to become a technical or a financial TAP partner. The TAP leaflet is also something most of you already know. The only change in the TAP leaflet this time was that we added these 2 new partners, the GIZ Felicity and the GIZ COM-SSA 3. We have a new application form, which is not much different from the one last year. But this time we managed to be a bit faster and be ready with translations, which last year was very much missing. So we have, of course, the application form available in English, but also in Spanish and French. And we also hope to have soon the Chinese and the Arabic version. We prepared a social media kit, which is for you to amplify, to promote the TAP call via the social media channels like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. And we also prepared the text you can use for amplifying the call and explain in a simple, brief way what TAP is about. And we have our first video, which will be soon on the website. Actually, all the others document we are continuously uploading to the TAP website, so it will be all publicly available. This video was made during the Resilient Cities Congress in June in Bonn with the UNCDF when they joined to be a TAP partner. So as said, you will receive all these documents, and we encourage you and ask you to use them really actively. So regarding the application process, the application process will be very similar as last year. What you see here is a print screen of the web page, and as you see, we already brought to the first page of the website that there is a call for applications till the 30th of October, 30th of November, so promoting this call. And then there are several options how you can get to the application form. So as you see above on the top of the page, you have a button on apply, then you have the middle of the page a button to click on, and if you scroll down the same page, this first page, then again you have this little line, learn how to apply. So also when you click there, it all leads you to this registration page. And this registration proved to be a really good experience from last year, because we really would like to be sure and ensure that all the applicants are local and regional governments. So when we receive this registration request, then we check if indeed the applicant is a local or a regional government. And once we checked it, then the applicant receives an email that the registration request is approved. And then the applicant can log in and download the application form on the preferred language from the website. And then once the application form is downloaded and filled out, then can be submitted to this email account, the tap@iclai.org. So that's the application process. It sounds complicated, but apparently worked quite well last year. So I'm quite positive that also this year it will work fine. Yeah, so some words then on the application form itself and the few changes in the application form we made. So one very important change is that now on the first page of the application form, now the applicant has to tick a box that we can share the information of the application form with third parties only with the goal of matchmaking and promoting the project. Then there is also one question on the COMES SA3, because this time we partner up with GIZ, COMES SA3, as I already mentioned, but it also means that at the moment they are doing a project selection, and they would like to use this TAP call and the TAP project for their project as a basis for their project selection. So they use the same application form, the TAP application form, but then of course they also ask this question if the applicant is already committed or willing to commit to COMES SA3. But of course, this question, yeah, I mean, applicants can see if it's a relevant question for them or not. Still, we didn't want to develop, you know, 2 application forms that would just create confusion. So then we simplified the form in the regard that if you remember previously, we had detailed questions on the country and sector context. And then our experience was that no one was really interested in those questions. So we deleted them. But instead of that, our experience was that we received many questions when talking to potential partners on the alignment of the project with the regional, national, and international goals. So now we have a stronger emphasis on that. And we also have more finance-related questions, although, as already said, we are not planning to check the financial maturity of the project. Still, we would like to collect some indicators and have more information on the sources of finance, and very much related to that, there is now also a question which helps us to understand better what the project is really looking for, because just reading the application form, it was not always easy. Then, of course, from bilateral discussions, yes, we understood better the project, but yeah, so each project has a different need. So some only seek for visibility, some are seeking for technical assistance. So it's always different, and in the new application form, we would like to gather more information on this. Talking about how TAP relates to other initiatives and how we want to connect the recent call, this 3rd call to be announced next week, to other initiatives. First of all, I would like to mention the GAP Fund. I'm not sure if all you are familiar with that. So the GAP Fund is an initiative of the German Ministry of Environment and the GECOM. And so the concept behind the concept of GAP Fund is the recognition that there is a gap, meaning providing project preparation support for the early stage and small scale projects. And yeah, as you know, usually financial partners and investors, they seek for mature and large-scale projects. So recognizing this gap, and that's exactly why it's called GAP Fund, there is this new fund announced also next week in New York, and here, since quite long time, more than a year, we are working hard that TAP is recognized as a methodology for this fund for project identification. Then the second, where we have a very strong connection, this call, this already mentioned GIZ, Covenant of Mayors, Sub-Saharan Africa Component 3 chapter, where they want to use TAP for collecting and identifying projects in Ghana, Cameroon, Kenya, Burkina Faso, and Nigeria. We have a close cooperation with GIZ Felicity at the moment, with a focus on Mexico. But Felicity also works in Brasilia and in Brazil and Indonesia. So we are now in negotiations what to do exactly together as a next step, how Felicity can use the most this call we are just announcing next week. So they are also waiting for our projects. And The fourth initiative where there is a huge interest for the TAP projects is through the CCFLA, the Cities Climate Finance Leadership Alliance, where we have a focus at the moment on Mexico. So we are piloting this work in Mexico. Last spring, ICLAI carried out a mapping in Mexico on the existing project preparation facilities, initiatives, and we also had some interviews with the city administrations to understand the needs. And now as the next step, we would like to address all those findings of that report and follow up with real action in Mexico. So, and for this activity also, we would like to use the TAP project pipeline. And of course, we're always looking for other opportunities. So, and there are always new opportunities and new initiatives coming. So where we already started discussions around, it was with the Asian Development Bank Cities Development Initiative for Asia, which is also a project preparation facility. And then also the Agence Française de Développement. They have a Cities and Climate Change in Sub-Saharan Africa initiative. We are discussing with FMDV and the West African Economic and Monetary Union how to use this TAP call to identify projects for project coaching and for workshops on finance, focusing of course then on the West African region and particularly Benin, Burkina Faso and Ivory Coast. And since many years, we are having ongoing discussions with the CDP and how to connect TAP to their matchmaking initiative. CDP focusing on private investors. So this could be relevant for TAP projects also with interest for private investments. So those are ongoing discussions, but as said, we are constantly looking for opportunities, and here I also very much would like to invite your collaboration and cooperation because you are the one being on the region, so we don't know all potential initiatives from your region. So if you see some potential, then please reach out to us and we can do some fundraising activity together, engage them as a partner. So we very much would like to get here also some input from your side because at the moment it's more coordinated globally, but this in an ideal case it should be a common effort, the World Secretariat and the regional offices. A very last slide, which doesn't relate too much to the call, but still I wanted to follow up on our discussions from July on the TAP screening and to give you some feedback and results on that. So we still have some projects missing the final score. And so this was not an easy process because this is a completely at the moment unfunded activity. So what we did at the ICLAI World Secretariat, we just split the project pipeline to screen the projects. And then asking your help as regional offices to answer missing questions. And we are quite advanced, but as said, still there are some projects missing the final score. And now we are opening the pipeline for a third call, so somehow we have to be strict here. Of course, we will not delete projects which have no final score, but somehow we would like to separate them because that's actually how we always try to sell the TAP and the TAP methodology and do fundraising activity around the TAP when we talk to potential partners. That's our strength, that we can mobilize projects through regional offices, so we can build up a pipeline, and then we do this screening on the transformative impact. And then when we arrive to that point, then we hand the projects over to different partners. But as we promote and brand TAP with this project mobilizing and screening process, we really have to be rigid here, and to be sure that only projects in the pipeline, that we have only projects in the pipeline that score really high, so let's say 70%. So our plan was to give feedback for all the projects, and it's still our plan. It's just, again, lack of capacity this time, being still a fully unfunded activity, but very important. So we will come back to you, and we certainly can share with you all the results we have so far. But our goal would be to really go back to the projects bilaterally and to give a tailored suggestion for improvement, and then of course to encourage those projects to submit again their application to the TAP. So from my side, that was all I wanted to say, and now I open the floor for questions. So as said, please use this button, raise hand, and then we can unmute you, and then you can ask your question. Alternatively, you can of course also type in the question box, but I think it's just nice to do it as interactive as possible.
Yeah, I mean, great, thanks. This is really good for me to already get prepared. I had a couple of things to understand. I mean, and ironically, I mean, I don't know, I am sitting in GIZ office in the GIZ HQ in Ashbourne. So when you mentioned GIZ and how you're working, I would be happy to discuss with you this further when I'm in office, so that we could see where, who, and which departments we can approach with TAP and make more connections, because as far as I understood, I think there is a big GIZ, either you go to the main strategy guys to create a corporation, because that's what we did, as in we in the sense Pedawest is to create a corporation with GIZ, or else you work with the department of projects like energizing development or green people energy, like every program that they have. So I would love to discuss with you when I am in office, like how do you see this fitting in with their mandate? Because they, in which case, get a political mandate of countries in Africa or wherever, and then they pick up projects or project owners from there. So yeah, I mean, this is quite interesting because I have now spent 4 weeks here in Ashbourne. So let's discuss this when we meet. Second, I wanted to ask that I know a lot of projects and project owners. How should I, or how can we convert this for the TAP pipeline through the local governments? I mean, I do not know that part, how to connect them to their local governments. And the second part to that question is, how lower or how sub-national or sub-state can the government be? Can we go to village level governments as well, or do you have a limit for that?
Okay, so maybe starting with GIZ, great, we certainly talk. Actually, we of course already had some discussions also on that. So we can see where we are already with those discussions, and what can you bring in additionally through your experience and contacts. So that sounds great. We certainly follow up on that once you are in office. Regarding the level of the subnationality, we also, yeah, so it can be regional government, it can be local government. So we don't have requirement on that. We just don't work. It has to be under the national level for sure. We of course also work somehow with the national level, but not in the TAP, and actually anyway it's not ICLEI's profile, although you have to work with them. You just cannot avoid them, especially that these multilateral development banks, for example, they all have you know, the contracts with the national governments, and so that's one thing that so the way to access funds also for the local and regional governments goes through the national government. And depending, yeah, of course, also on the country structure, many times the subnational level depends really heavily on the national structure and government. So we cannot avoid working with national governments and promote vertical integration all the time. But yeah, so the TAP is open both for regional and local, and we also try to promote bundling projects, which something we certainly, I think, have to deliver trainings on, because it sounds very easy that to say for a small local government that, yeah, your project is quite small, but why don't you team up with the neighboring other, you know, villages or what? And it's not that easy. So we certainly have to deliver trainings on that. But this is something we also would accept in a TAP application. So when it's a consortia of different local governments. And you had a third question. I'm not sure. Yeah, how the project owners to connect to the project developers. Well, our project developers are the local and the regional governments. So, and we work together with them through the regional offices. So the World Secretariat here has more like a coordination role, and of course also belonging to a bigger network. So also to belong to a bigger project pipeline than just what maybe your region could provide. But the projects are usually identified and mobilized through the regional offices. Theoretically and practically even, it's possible that someone finds the TAP website and submits an application. So it's public, it's there, but still, last year, maybe we received 1 or 2 applications which came not through the regional office, but also that case when I contacted the regional office. So do you know these people? Do you know already this project? Then they already knew. It's just they were not informed that this local authority would submit a TAP application. And I really hope that this year maybe we receive also more projects through the TAP partners and their network. So far, all projects in 2015 and also in 2018, we all received through the regional offices. And here I really would like to thank the work of the regional offices with the project mobilization.
Okay, look, thanks for that. But let me ask this in another way. What I'm trying to say is that in my, let's say, your clients, or let's say ICLEI's clients, are the local and regional governments or subnational governments that you work with. And at my level, I would see myself at the moment with my network that I'm talking about 1 level below or 2 levels below. where I'm working or in contact with the project owners or the project developers or implementers. Yeah. So these guys have many solar or energy oriented or water oriented projects. And my question is that, should I then tell them to go connect with ICLAI's regional offices, or should they directly go and connect with the next local government that they have in the region, or so to say?
Yeah, it's through, exactly, just as you said, through the local or the regional government. Yeah, so that's exactly the case, that they can be project partners, but if now we would receive from a private company a project, we wouldn't approve. But if this private company teams up with a local government or a regional government, then yes.
Yeah, I mean, generally the case is like this now, because there's a lot of more private demand on the ground. So there are a lot of, I mean, private consumers and private, I mean, let's say consumers of certain projects and certain type of projects, and then there are people who are working privately. Not every project or establishment is government oriented. But in case if this is something that is required for them to access to finance or access to expertise on technology, whatever, then they will figure out a way to connect with the government or the sub-local or sub-national government and see how they can approach in the TAP pipeline, right?
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I think that would be a good way. So in what I take home is that I tell them that they get in, I mean, they somehow get connected with the sub-local, national, or whatever government that they have at their level, whether it is town, city, village, so on, and then they see what how they can coordinate with the ICLAI office as well in the region, or whichever the nearest one is, just to get on with that. Just a follow-up question on that, and then I put my hand down. So, sorry to take up.
No. That's why we are here today. So.
The next following question that I wanted to ask, is there a preference on, like you mentioned in one of the slides, like you're looking for infrastructure projects. Is there a preference on what kind of infrastructure projects? Is it like energy, water, I don't know, like community buildings or something like that? Or is it like just wide open for anything and everything?
Yeah, so actually the TAP is open both for mitigation and adaptation projects, and what we even see that the financial partners, they prefer the most when the project has both mitigation and adaptation. And that's what we also promote. Still, last year, 70% of the applications, we had mitigation projects. And honestly, they are also the one, the easier to be pitched to other partners, because when you talk to an investor, a financial partner, the first they ask if there is a revenue generation mechanism, what is the return of investment, which if you have an adaptation project, it's hard to prove. But in the TAP, we have amazing adaptation projects as well. So on the application form, I will share with you. I will share with everyone. But there you see the sectors we work with. So it's building, transport, energy, water, but also agriculture, forestry, fishery, land use. We have some really amazing land use projects and land rehabilitation projects. So yeah, we try to keep the balance, but yeah, also this year, this call, it's also open globally. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, just another quick question. I give you some examples and tell me if this qualifies for it. Yeah. Agricultural project, solar pumping based drip irrigation project for growing some kind of crop, which has a business model, of course, revenue earning through crops selling and so on. Blah, blah. Second example, a solar, maybe a solar mini grid or a solar home system project. And third option, what I would give is let's say, a wastewater treatment plant. Would these kind of projects apply as well?
They would all qualify. They would
They all
really
qualify.
all qualify. And they all have a climate impact, very importantly. What we were considering to exclude, for example, last year, cable car project, which is not that clear if it's a climate project, or monorail, trams. So those are, and we also received some housing projects where it was not clear if it's a climate project, so some social housing project. But
Okay.
all what you mentioned, all those three would qualify. Yeah.
Okay, I was just trying to be a little going from sector to sector, jumping. I could not think of something which is a very gray. But anyhow, this I can take up later. So no, thank you. And I put my hand down now.
Okay. Does anyone have question? Okay, not seeing question. I hope everything was clear. And as said, you will receive this presentation. You will receive the link of the recording of this presentation, and you will get all these kit materials which I just listed. Yeah, so as said, the call will open next week, and I really ask all your collaboration on mobilizing good projects from your region also this time. And of course, also after this call, I'm always available also bilaterally in case you have any questions. And I'm happy to follow up and answer your questions. So seeing no questions, I would like to see your participation this afternoon. And yeah, I wish you a good rest of the day and talk to you soon. Bye bye.